So if you want to just listen to this as you're falling asleep, you could do that as well. So we have a very sleepy, dreamy session for you today. Now, I'm going to go ahead and open it up to the day I have, and I'm going to be reading June. So really, just sit back, relax. You get to listen to the words Oh, this one has a really nice title. So the title here says Path to God. It says paths, like an S plural. Paths to God. There are many paths to God. As there are people on this planet, it is inevitable that each path leads to God because each path is God. No one person, sect, belief system, religious denomination, or culture captures the one true path to God to the exclusion of all others. Oh, I'm loving this passage. This is fundamental nonsense and meant to keep us all limited, weak, and small. All types of belief systems are exhibited on this planet. All beliefs are welcome, are accepted, and eventually all beliefs lead to God. Break the chain of any limiting beliefs which states this is the one true path to God, and should you not follow it, you will suffer eternal damnation. Expand your paradigm. Nothing can keep you from God. Nothing can keep even the lowest person who has ever inhabited the earth, a person considered to be a scourge of mankind, from eventually joining with the source. Be impossible, since the source is who you are and the source does not deny itself. All phases of belief, from atheism to fundamentalism to fanaticism and everything in between, are exhibited on this planet, and all phases of belief are welcome. All beliefs eventually lead to God, since God, or whatever name we give a higher power, is all there is. There is nothing else outside of us. It is all God in different shapes, sizes, volumes, tones, vibrations, rays, molecules, quirks, and beliefs. Whatever we believe in is true for us. There are many things that are true that have nothing to do with truth, since truth is the same for everyone, regardless of shape, size, sex, or religious affiliation. We lead our life in accordance to what we believe is true, but we can change our beliefs as readily as we can change our clothes. We can change them instantaneously if we choose. It can be done. If you change your beliefs, you are still on the path to God. Do you have a path to God that is different from the people around you? All paths lead to God. Okay, so another wonderful passage, and it is a passage up for debate. I studied religious studies in college, and I had the opportunity to sit in numerous classes and on numerous wisdom traditions, and it was always really exciting to listen to the people who are of that wisdom tradition speak, because they spoke from a place of both faith as well as knowledge, learning, and things like that. And so, in listening to them, I started to realize, sitting in each one of these classes, going to different places, going to church, going to temple, going to the mosque, going to these different places, that there was just this underlying current that was the same everywhere, said in different words, said in different verses and different phrases, said in different wisdom traditions, but it's the same kind of commonality. And so as time started to progress, even though I naturally wasn't really one to be very religious, I've always been very spiritual, but as time progressed and I kind of dipped my toe and looked around, I realized that know that I wouldn't say it's an unpopular opinion. I think it's an unpopular opinion for people to share, because some people are so dedicated to their spiritual position, or let me take that back. Sometimes people are so dedicated to their religious position, they tie it to their spiritual position, that they feel in some way that if others don't feel as passionate about their religious tradition, then that somehow diminishes them. So they want them to believe this is the only way to serve God. This is the one true God. I don't think I've ever shared this before. I could have. I don't know. I was raised Jehovah's Witness. And so Jehovah's Witness, a lot of people know about it because it's kind of like a joke. You see the person knocking at your door and you like go hi. So Jehovah's Witness is a sect of Christianity, and a sect means it's just a group of Christianity. So over the Christian lineage, you have Islam, Judaism, and all of these kind of big groups. You have different groups within it that have different names. And so Christianity has a lot of groups, and Jehovah's Witnesses are just a sect. Okay, a little lesson in history. So how Jehovah's Witnesses are probably like maybe 100, maybe 150 years old. The religion, or the coming to be, or the first time people started to use that name. What happened was that in Christianity, you saw the traditional, Christianity, and then you started to see this Protestant, where it was more about interpreting the Bible and really bringing it into the current day. Well, anyway, at that time, whatever the current day was. And so then you see in Protestant, you see it starts to really section off. Okay, from there, you section off even more, and you have this group that was called the Bible Study Group. And so there are other groups in it too. It's Jehovah's Witness, Seventh-day Adventist, and some other groups too. And basically what they are is they're interpreting the scriptures for the current day. They take it a step further, in which they go and they take the King James version of the Bible, and then they have translated it to kind of encompass what Jehovah's Witnesses believe in. So, that was just my quick little history lesson of that. But basically, I was saying all of that to say that when I was growing up, I was going, it's called the Kingdom Hall. I would go to the Kingdom Hall on my mother's side. And my father's side, my father had converted to Islam, and his mother was Baptist. So it was just a very kind of like a mixture of things going on. And so going to church, because my grandmas were very important, going to church with my grandma who was a Jehovah's Witness, as opposed to going to church with my grandma who was Baptist, two different worlds, both Christian, but very different. When I was in the Baptist church, it was more about needing to be a Christian. And specifically, it was like, be a Christian here at this church. But as long as you're a Christian, that's the most important part. It really didn't matter if you were Baptist. Like, it was more like, it was the flavor. Like, sometimes, you want to read a book in a certain way. Some people like romance, some people like comedy, some people like mystery novels. So it was more like the flavor. And then for Jehovah's Witness, they were specifically saying that this is the only sect of Christianity that's valid. And this is the only way to serve God, period. And so being Baptist, being a Presbyterian, Episcopal, being anything else, being Catholic, that was, I don't want to use the term that people used to say when I was younger, but that was just not right. It was, you're being led astray, and this is the only way to do it. And from an early age, I felt like that was wrong. Meaning, it just didn't make sense to me. I just felt like there was so much beauty in the world, and so many people who felt so strongly about their faith and that we're good people. So it just couldn't possibly be right. And so, just to bring it full circle, this passage is really talking about how allow yourself to be. The last bit of advice I got in when I was going to school for religious studies was I had a professor who was the head of the department, and he had said, don't worry about trying to figure out which religion is right, this and that. He's like, don't worry about that. Just worry about being the best, whatever you are. If you're a Christian, be the best Christian. If you're a Muslim, be the best Muslim. If you're, agnostic, be the best agnostic person. If you are somewhere in between or whatever, just be the best of that you can be. And I think that was super important because unfortunately we've seen throughout times war, we've seen prejudice, both racially and as well as gender, as in female, as well as gender, as in our family and the queer community be discriminated against, as well as sexuality. And unfortunately, in the face of religion, because people are so passionate about it, people have done some pretty horrible things. And even in recent time, in the feeling of being able to think that someone could go and kill a trans person, a trans woman or a trans male, or someone who could go kill somebody who is a queer because they feel religiously charged, and that to some people they still have a bit of sympathy with that, like, oh well, they're wrong, that these other people are wrong or something like that. And there's no excuse for violence, and we should all really take a look at our religiosity to think that why would God ever want us to do that, And I think it just requires us all to kind of open up a little bit and to be kind of receptive to things changing. Unfortunately, for some, it may take a little bit longer, but things change. There, before Judaism, there was other stuff going on there. Before that other stuff, there was other stuff going on there. We have these parables that go throughout, all the stories that we're getting our wisdom from. And just today, things continue to change. So I'm not saying it to ruffle anyone's feathers. I'm simply saying it to say that you deserve unconditional love and unconditional compassion, and you get to do it your way. Religion, or let me not say religion, but your connection to God should not be embodied in fear or guilt. Your connection to God should be embodied in a sense of unconditional love, because God, the source, the universe, whatever you want to call it, God is nothing but unconditional love. The farther you get away from God, the more you experience these other things. And these other things, which feel like challenges, actually help our soul to mature. But we always have this connection, and we're always coming back to God, which is unconditional love. So feel free to release any fear or any confusion, especially if you were raised in a certain religion and you feel conflicted today that you really can't be yourself. Maybe you still have some family that feels some type of way about you being whoever you are. But know, whether you want to proclaim it out loud or proclaim it to yourself, that God is with you every step of the way. If you don't believe in God, you believe in, energy, quantum physics, you can say it in a way of that there is a connection between all of us, that things are moving at a certain speed, inevitably, that, all things exist, And so I'm just going to wrap that up by saying I hope you really enjoyed this session today, where I read from Own Your Power. It's a book by Alice Alicia Jones. And until next time, with so much love, family, take care.